Hey everybody, today we're talking about JSA Compendium 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent and today we're going to be reviewing JSA Compendium 1. This is a big, thick boy of a book. This is over 1,000 pages, got to be like 1,300 at least. 1,278 on this page, and there's a couple more pages after that, so probably over 1,300 pages. It's a big book. So excuse me if I don't show a bunch of art while I'm doing the review. It's a big book. This replaces, basically, if you had the old Geoff Johns trades, replaces JSA by Geoff Johns book 1 and book 2, although it has, obviously there's way more in this book than there is just in these two trades. So honestly, I've collected the first 5 volumes of these Geoff Johns trades, and I meant to read them. I remember reading JSA. I read the Justice Society of America run that Geoff Johns did when he relaunched, when the Justice League relaunched after Infinite Crisis. I read all of that, but I had not read any of the JSA stuff, and I realized now I'm holding this up because it's much easier to hold than the compendium. But anyway, let's get the compendium. I had not read any of the JSA stuff, really. Maybe I read it in college a little bit, but not like I went back and read it somehow. But I don't really remember any of it. So I was like, let me get the compendium, even though I had the other smaller trades, like I had 1 through 5 when this came out. I think it was last year in 2024, maybe late 23. And it's just been sitting on my shelf, like on my bottom shelf here right behind me, staring at me like, hey, I'm a big book. You need to read me. You need to read me. So finally, I got enough videos ahead that I was like, all right, I think I have time to read this massive monster of a book. So I picked it up and I started reading it, right? And so this collects, of the Geoff Johns JSA, just collects 1 through 25. And you're like, Brent, that's a lot more than 25 issues. You're right. It collects a whole bunch of like the All-Star comics in the very beginning. Like there's at least 8 issues before you get to the JSA number 1 or the Secret Files and Origins. Like all this right here, like this is the Secret Files that kicks off the JSA stuff, like in that first trade. This is all prequel stuff. This is all a flashback to like a forgotten adventure with the original JSA in the 40s, with the original Mr. Terrific, the original Dr. Midnight, all those characters, the original Rex, Hour Man. So that is All-Star Comics 1 and 2, All-American Comics, Adventure Comics number 1. And then also in here is Day of Judgment 1 through 5. And I don't know that that's actually necessary. Like, I didn't mind the prequel to the JSA stuff with this Lost Adventure with them going up against, who was it? Was it the Dark Lord or something like that? It was like this, it was the, what's that guy's name? Not Nemesis. I remember reading him in the Wonder Woman story. He's like this soulless dude. I just read him. Anyway, I forgot. Stalker. That's this guy in the gold armor here. Stalker. It took me maybe 2 weeks to read this book. It took me a while. And this was kind of the only thing I was reading at the time. I wasn't jumping around through books. I was just doing other, stuff with the kids and all that. And then it goes into Day of Judgment. JSA starts off, you get like the first 3 issues here with Mordru and Dr. Fate and the team, and then it jumps over to the Day of Judgment storyline, right? And that is 1 through 5. And what is Day of Judgment? Well, Day of Judgment is where Hal Jordan becomes the Spectre. So is that really necessary? I don't think so. I think they put it in there because towards the end of the book, when you get into the Extant storyline and Sentinel, Alan Scott, Green Lantern gets hurt, the Spectre shows up and they're like, who saved me? Who healed me? And it's Hal Jordan. And I was like reading that towards the end, and I was like, wait, doesn't everybody know that Hal Jordan is the Spectre? Because they kind of announced it at the end of Day of Judgment number 5. So I went back and re-looked at it in here, and I was like, oh, the only people from the JSA that were around when they said Hal Jordan is the new Spectre was Alan Scott. So if he's out of commission, it does make sense that nobody knows, right? So that was a little funky. And then there's also more stuff in here that you don't need, like this Young Justice stuff in here. What is it? Stars and Stripe number 7 is in here. Young Justice, Sins of Youth 1 and 2. did that need to be in here? Stars and Stripe number 9. I read the Geoff Johns Stargirl thing on Comixology Unlimited, all 20 issues of that. So I skipped those 2 issues because I did read them recently, and that's a great series if you haven't checked that out. I know I'm jumping around here, but like the Sins of Youth didn't need to be in here at all. The only thing it had to do with the JSA was that it turned them young, and you still had the other people. It's not really a JSA story. It's more of a Young Justice story. So I don't really know why it's included in here, other than maybe they were like, all right, we're going to include all the big appearances of the JSA in this compendium from this year to this year. And maybe that's what they were doing. But like, they're not really necessary. It's barely a JSA storyline. The only thing I think of note that happens is that you have Whitney, you have Stargirl, or she's Star Spangled Kid in this book, gets aged up and takes care of all the younger heroes. But it's kind of a throwaway. It's not really like integral to the JSA storyline. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I like the prequel. I like all the prequel stuff of like, here's an adventure that happened in the 40s. That makes sense to me. But all these weird little appearances, like, I didn't need that. There's a 2-parter in here with Martian Manhunter. That's from the Martian Manhunter comic by Tom Mandrake at the time. I can't remember who was writing it. John Ostrander was writing it, right? And this is the cover. There's a 2-parter in here. I think that was fine to include. That was fun because it does include the JSA. It's Martian Manhunter kind of like training the new team to work together. That's fun. But yeah, the Sins of Youth thing did not need to be in there at all. So finally, once you get through halfway in the book, like literally, you get a little bit, you get a prequel JSA storyline in here. Then you get the first JSA storyline, like for real, where they go up against Mordru. And I'm trying not to crack my book here as I'm looking at this. And then from there, you get 5 issues of Day of Judgment. And then from there, you get, do you get Darkness Falls? I think you do get Darkness Falls. So you get this Hour Man issue, which is interesting. Art by Rags Morales. Yeah, then you get Darkness Falls, finally, after the Martian Manhunter 2-parter. So the real second JSA storyline. And then you go from that to a bunch of issues of Sins of Youth, and then another Hour Man storyline, and then finally everything else is kind of like JSA comic books. Like, literally, it's not till you get to this part of the book that you're actually truly in like the main JSA storylines from here on out. And to me, that made this a really, really weird read, as opposed to like the Nightwing compendiums where, yeah, they throw in Nightwing appearances from here and there, or crossovers, but they are Nightwing-centric issues, whereas this one, since there's so many characters, that sometimes when it's not just about the JSA, it really just feels like superfluous, and maybe they could have taken out some of those and not included them. Like, honestly, I would take out the Sins of Youth crossover from here if I had to redo it, and I would take out Day of Judgment, and I would put in another, Geoff Johns JSA storyline, and go to 30 issues or something like that. That's what I would do, and make the book a little bit lighter, honestly. So yeah, I think that's how I would remap this, honestly. So yeah, there's stuff in here that's not in the omnibus, the Geoff Johns JSA omnibus. I don't think you need this though. There's probably I'm sure that this prequel storyline is collected here, where they go up against Stalker, and it's written by James Robinson and David Goyer, the All-Star Comics. I think it's called JSA Returns, maybe in a trade paperback. If you can track that down and get it, you're not missing out there. Day of Judgment, I'm not sure it's ever been collected, honestly, and I'm sure those single issues are out there for cheap. And you can go pick those up elsewhere. So yeah, I think if you've already got the Geoff Johns trades, I know a year later, I'm a little late, Brent, but maybe you could skip this one, honestly. I don't know if they're going to do a second one, honestly. I know they've done the 2 Nightwing compendiums. They've done the 1 Robin compendium. They did finish the Sandman Mystery Theater compendiums. There's 2 volumes of those. I have not bought any of those yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to. I think I have the first 12 issues on Comixology Unlimited that I'm going to try and read to see if I like it or not, and then I'll buy it. But yeah, I don't know. They haven't solicited a second issue of this or announced it coming in the next year or anything like that, and that'll be 2 years between volumes. And meanwhile, for context, like There are already 2 volumes of the Green Lantern, Geoff Johns, and Peter Tomasi compendiums they're not solicited within the next 3 months. The first one is. Volume 1 is coming out in December, but Volume 2 is coming out next spring in 2026. And they've already announced that and told us what the contents are. And that's going to be flopping between the Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps issues. So I am going to get those. I'm going to replace these Green Lantern stuff behind me. But I think I want to try and read those before I get rid of them, honestly. And I will continue the JSA stuff running. I think I'm going to read Volume 3 here in a couple of weeks. So just so that it doesn't go fallow in my brain of what all this stuff was. And then if they do continue another compendium, I don't know. We'll see. We will see. But honestly, though, they're not continuing these Geoff Johns books either. They did 1 through 5, and even 5 came out a couple years before this, or maybe it was a year before shortly before the compendium came out or was announced. And it was like, why are you switching to compendiums? And even when they did, they haven't announced Compendium 2 yet. So I don't know, man. This is a weird-ass review for a weird-ass book. Let me just say that. So let's talk about the art. I think the art is honestly the best thing in here. Steven Sadowski, I wasn't familiar with him very much because he did a lot of JSA stuff that I wasn't reading at the time. You know, this is all from, probably like 1997, 98, 99 into 2000. And I was not reading comic books at that time. I think I really jumped on reading weekly, some things when Batman Hush was announced and that was coming out. And I was going to pick that up, from the comic book store when I was working my first job as in between junior and senior year of high school for me. So that's really my era. Like, I knew they existed because I was picking up Wizard from the grocery stores at the time. That's how far back this was, when you could still find a Wizard magazine in a grocery store, no less. But yeah, so I was not familiar with Steven Sadowski. But his stuff, honestly, though, is a majority of the artwork in here when you are getting the JSA issues, and his stuff is great, I will tell you. And Rags Morales on Our Man, and he does a little bit here in the Hawkman arc in the back. His stuff's great there too. I mean, no duh, but it's kind of neat to see how he was, 5 or 6 years before he did Identity Crisis, and even then he was still like a fantastic artist, so it's pretty neat to see that. I'm not sure what Sadowski's doing right now, but man, his stuff is pretty amazing. There's another artist in here just going by Buzz, and even his stuff is interesting. Like, it's pretty consistent, and it's kind of cool that you have Alan Davis doing the covers, not this particular one, but the main covers for the JSA storyline. I'll just hold up this other one because this is Alan Davis cover of the Injustice Society. And even like Sadowski and Buzz's style mixed with these Alan Davis covers, they all kind of gel together nicely. It's not like the cover art doesn't match the interior art like some comic books, which I do find really nice. But all in all, I think that's the best thing I can say about this book, is that the artwork in every issue does have something really strong and really compelling about it. Like, there's not an issue where I'm like, oh, well, this art was really bad. You know what I mean? Even Todd Knock, who I think is an acquired taste sometimes, even for me, because I love Mike Mignola, I love John Romita Jr., even Todd Knock's stuff is really strong. And Brent Smith does is it Brent Smith? Does the Day of Judgment stuff. Matt Smith. It does the Day of Judgment stuff, and it's very like Mike Mignola-esque, and his stuff is strong there also. So I think that's the best part about this volume, honestly, is the art is just freaking stacked. The writing, David Goyer, James Robinson, Geoff Johns all do a mix of all the main writing in here, with a little help from Peter David on the Young Justice stuff, and got John Ostrander doing the Martian Manhunter bits. But I think for the most part, we'll credit David Goyer in this book, because he is a co-writer on basically every issue in here. And then James Robinson does the first, 1 or 2 JSA arcs, and then he jumps off. And then you have Geoff Johns doing the Day of Judgment stuff. And then Geoff Johns jumps on as co-writer, co-plotter of the book, whatever you want to call it, halfway through, I don't know. In particular, there's a huge table of contents to get all that stuff. But so it's not really the JSA by Geoff Johns anymore. Like, even that first book, I'm not sure when he jumps on this one, even though they say it's by Geoff Johns. It's David Goyer and James Robinson's book at that point. But anyway, yeah, I think the writing, there's so many characters, and there's times when I was like reading a JSA issue going like, when did that happen? When did that happen? They're moving so fast in between scenes and plot points that I had to page back and through. So I do think the writing is, not quite up to par, I would say. Not yet. And maybe the book hasn't found its stride, but it felt like, by the time I'm midway through this massive freaking compendium, I'm like, okay, when is this book going to pick up, or the writing feel like it's being cohesive? Because it was just moving so many miles at a pace, and not in a way that is exciting or following along. A lot of times it just left me a little bit confused. Not the Day of Judgment storyline, not the flashback one, because that's pretty easy. Like the flashback storyline here, these All-American comics and All-Star comics and whatever, they're all basically one-shots, and they spotlight two heroes at a time. That's easy to follow, but it's when we got to the regular JSA stuff towards the back, it's like leaning on a lot of old history from Infinity Inc. or All-Star Squadron from the 70s, and it's like, are you gonna bother to explain anything? Like, I'm kind of amazed, honestly, that the main JSA storyline, like this title right here, went on for 83 issues when it leaned on a whole bunch of old stuff. And I know as we get further into the main series, it'll probably do that less and less, but there's a lot of stuff even here that I didn't know, that I was like Googling and looking up on Wikipedia to try and find out some backstory that's like, like, I don't know who this was written for at the time in the early 2000s, to be quite honest, because you would have had to have been like, I don't know, 25 at the time, and hopefully you read Infinity Inc. or All-Star Squadron in the 80s and 70s, and then was like getting a kick out of that book, to be honest. So yeah, I'm not quite sure who the audience was at the time, because it certainly wasn't for me at the time, because I was 12, something like that, really, or 13. And I was not alive during that time period reading those books. So, yeah, it's a little strange. So, all in all, I had an okay time with it. I'm not in love with this compendium. I'm still going to read the other JSA books because I have them. But this is not one that I'm like, oh, you have to pick this up or you have to read JSA. Like, honestly, I think for me, so far, when I picked up the JSA storyline with the Justice Society of America title with the Alex Ross covers, was the right time for me to start reading JSA. But man, there's a lot to chew on in this big compendium number 1. So yeah, it's a weird review for a weird ass book. We'll just go with that. So yeah, look for JSA by Geoff Johns book 3 review coming in a couple of weeks, or if you're watching this a year down the road, it's probably posted. Search for it if I don't have it linked on the end screen or anything like that. But anyways, thanks you guys for watching and listening to me ramble on about JSA Compendium 1. And I'll see you guys next time in the funny pages. Don't forget to let me know down below in the comments what you thought of this book or this JSA run if you were reading it at the time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time in the funny pages.